In a world so densely interconnected, the idea of being truly alone can feel almost foreign. Each day, we're bombarded with messages, alerts, and updates, linking us to people, events, and ideas around the globe. Yet, despite this unprecedented level of connectivity, an age-old question remains. Is there something valuable about being alone? Something deeply transformative that we lose when we're always tethered to others? Philosophers and mystics, artists and writers throughout history have long explored solitude as a gateway to wisdom, understanding, and self-discovery. To them, solitude wasn't merely an absence of company. It was a presence of self, a state where finally we meet ourselves as we truly are, not as others see us or expect us to be. In this journey inward, we'll look at how some of history's greatest minds saw solitude, and we'll ask whether, in our modern world, embracing solitude might hold the answers to questions we didn't even know we had. Solitude, a word that often conjures images of isolation, emptiness, or even loneliness. Yet, solitude is something altogether different. It is not the absence of people, but the presence of self, a conscious choice to step away from the busyness, the expectations, the voices of the world. Solitude is an intentional state, a purposeful practice of creating space for the self to exist and breathe, unfettered by the constant tug of others' opinions or expectations. In solitude, philosophers argue, we find a shelter from the noise, a sacred pause in which we can reflect and reconnect with what truly matters to us. Friedrich Nietzsche, one of philosophy's boldest voices, championed solitude as a path to self-mastery. He declared, "The individual has always had a struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself." To Nietzsche, solitude was a daring act, a journey to reclaim one's inner sovereignty in a world eager to mold and control. He saw solitude as essential, a battleground where we encounter ourselves without filters, without masks. He warned that it would not be easy, that solitude, at times, would feel like a daunting void. Yet he believed that, within that void, one could cultivate the truest version of the self, unchained from the expectations of others. Nietzsche's reverence for solitude was shared by other great thinkers. Soren Kierkegaard, a towering figure in existential thought, held that solitude was essential for understanding the self. To Kierkegaard, solitude wasn't merely time away from others. It was a journey inward, a confrontation with the self's deepest fears, desires, and contradictions. He believed that without solitude, we risked living shallow lives, guided not by our own values, but by the standards and expectations imposed by society. In solitude, Kierkegaard argued, we confront our truest self, free from the masks we wear for others. This confrontation, he warned, could be uncomfortable, even frightening. But it was only through facing ourselves that we could begin the journey toward genuine authenticity. For Henry David Thoreau, solitude wasn't just a state of mind, it was a way of life. In 1845, he embarked on an experiment that would come to define him. Living alone for over 2 years in a cabin by Walden Pond, Thoreau chose solitude to escape the distractions of society and immerse himself in the rhythms of nature. He sought to experience life in its rawest, simplest form, with few possessions, few obligations, and no societal demands. For Thoreau, solitude wasn't about isolation but liberation, a chance to shed the weight of others' expectations and rediscover what it meant to be fully alive. His reflections on life, nature, and purpose remain some of the most profound meditations on solitude ever written. He asked a question that continues to resonate. What would happen if we let go of society's endless demands and dared to live according to our own truths? In our world today, solitude is hard to come by. With every passing moment, we're plugged into a vast, digital web of connections. Every notification, every like, every message keeps us tethered to others, leaving little room for silence. Solitude, once revered, has become something many fear, or worse, something they've never experienced. And for some, the thought of being alone, truly alone, is unsettling, an emptiness they'd rather avoid. Yet, studies are beginning to show that our avoidance of solitude could have serious consequences for our mental and emotional well-being. The inability to sit quietly with ourselves, to face our own thoughts without distraction, affects not only our focus but our ability to know who we truly are. Living in a society that prizes constant productivity, visibility, and connection, solitude can seem like a luxury or even a rebellion. To take time for oneself, to step back from the noise, can feel as though we're falling behind or worse, missing out. But in that quiet space, there is a rare freedom, an opportunity to turn inward, to question, to dream, to listen to the voice within that's so often drowned out. Solitude invites us to remember our own priorities, our own values, our own desires, even in a world that pulls us in every direction. In solitude, we find a kind of mirror, a mirror that reflects who we are without the influence of others, without the distractions of our daily lives. In these moments alone, we encounter ourselves as we are, stripped of roles and expectations. It's here that creativity flourishes, that insights emerge, that the mind is free to wander, dream, and explore. Studies reveal that people who regularly engage in solitary practices, like journaling, meditation, or quiet walks, experience greater mental resilience, increased empathy, and a deeper sense of purpose. In solitude, we reconnect with what we love, what we yearn for, and perhaps what we've been avoiding. Kierkegaard argued that the self is not something ready-made, but something to be discovered, layer by layer, moment by moment. Solitude creates the space for that discovery, a realm where we can explore our fears, our dreams, our strengths, and our weaknesses without judgment. It allows us to ask, who am I when I'm not trying to be someone for others? Who am I when I am simply myself? But how do we embrace solitude in a practical way in a world that constantly pulls us outward? Finding solitude doesn't mean retreating to a cabin in the woods or renouncing the modern world. It can be woven into the fabric of our daily lives in small but powerful ways. Perhaps it begins with a morning walk without distractions, a few minutes of journaling before bed, or even moments of mindfulness in between the busyness of life. Each of these small moments offers us a chance to reconnect with ourselves, to pause, to breathe, and to rediscover what truly matters. Solitude doesn't need to be grand or dramatic to be meaningful. In fact, it's often in the simplest of moments that we find the greatest insights. The key is intention, a choice to set aside time, to turn off the noise, and to sit quietly just with ourselves. Is solitude essential for self-discovery? For Nietzsche, for Kierkegaard, for Thoreau, the answer was a resounding yes. Solitude allows us to peel back the layers, to question, to reflect, and to reconnect with the essence of who we are. It offers us the freedom to explore, the courage to confront ourselves, and the clarity to see our path forward. In a world that constantly pulls us outward, solitude invites us to turn inward, to find peace, wisdom, and ultimately a deeper understanding of what it means to be human. And so, the next time you find yourself alone, consider it an invitation to explore the vast landscape within. In the silence, you may just discover your truest self. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of solitude and self-discovery. In a world that rarely pauses, taking a moment to simply be with ourselves can be a revolutionary act. If this journey inward resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe and become part of our community here at Discover Thought, where we dive into the deep questions of life, philosophy, and human experience. And if you found something meaningful today, Share it with others who might need a reminder of the beauty of solitude.